Good morning, students. So, today we are going to discuss what is compounding interest. Since most of you all have doubts with respect to that, so let me address that. Okay, so as I have told you all theoretically that compounding interest and simple interest, the difference I have already covered. Still, I'll repeat again. Simple interest, the interest is directly calculated on the principal amount. That is, you take the interest rate and directly multiply it on the principal amount, and you will get your interest. Okay, that is the simple interest. Now coming to compounding interest, it is calculated on the principal amount plus the interest that you have earned previously. Okay, so whatever interest you have earned in the first year, that amount plus the principal amount will be taken, and on that the percentage of interest will be applied in order to calculate the interest amount. Okay, so compounding interest is nothing but interest on interest. Okay, basically, compounding interest will be greater than the simple interest. Why? In the simple interest, as I have told you all, that only the principal amount is taken, and on that the interest is calculated. But in compounding interest, we take the principal amount plus the interest amount, and on that sum we multiply the percentage in order to compute the compounding interest. Okay, now compounding interest, it can be of different types. Now let us understand the different types of compounding. There is compounding annually, compounding semi annually or half yearly, compounding weekly, compounding monthly, compounding daily, and there is something compounding quarterly. Okay, now what is this M? Basically, M is the number of times you pay the interest in a year. Now say you have deposited your amount in a bank, or you have taken loan from the bank, say. Okay, now that loan will be for a period of 5 years or 10 years. Okay, isn't it? If you have taken a loan from the bank, the loan will be for a period of 5 years or 10 years. But how many times are you paying the interest for that loan? Are you paying it only once in a year? Are you paying it twice in a year? Are you paying every month? Like monthly you are paying the interest. Now that is number of times you are going to pay the interest in 1 year. Okay. Obviously, your loan which you have taken, say it is for a period of 5 years. But say you are paying the interest semi annually. That is, after every 6 months, you are paying the interest. So in that case, your compounding will be semi-annually. That is, M is equal to 2. You are paying your interest twice in a year. Okay. Coming to compounding monthly. Now say you have taken a loan from the bank. Okay. And every month you are paying the interest. Okay. Though the though the loan is taken for 5 years. But for all those 5 years, you are paying the interest monthly. Okay, every month you are paying the interest. So that's why M is equal to 12. Okay, why M is equal to 12? Because in a year there are 12 months. Similarly, in a year there are 52 weeks. In a year there are 365 days. In a year there are 4 quarters. That's why M is equal to 4, M is equal to 365, M is equal to 12, M is equal to 52, M is equal to 2, and M is equal to 1. So M is nothing but the number of times you are paying a interest in a year, whereas N is equal to number of years you have taken that loan for, or number of years you are going to deposit the amount in a bank. Okay, that is N. But M is nothing but number of times you are going to pay the interest in the year. Okay, in a year, how many times you are paying your interest? Okay, so now let us start with the problems. So now let us start with understanding what is simple interest, and then let us move on to understanding what is compound interest. Okay, to begin with, simple interest is directly calculated on the principal amount. take the interest rate, multiply it with the principal amount, you get the simple interest. Whereas the compound interest, you have to take the principal amount plus the interest earned previously in order to calculate the compound interest. Okay, so now let us start. Okay, simple interest is equal to, I told you all, you take the principal amount, multiply it with interest, multiply it with number of years, you get your simple interest. Why we are multiplying with number of years, I will let you all know with the help of an example. Okay, where P is equal to principal amount, I is equal to interest rate, and N is equal to number of years. Okay, so simple interest, you take the principal amount, multiply it with the interest rate, multiplied by number of years. Now let us take a simple example in order to understand what is simple interest. Okay, let us take that the principal amount is 1000, then interest rate is say 50%, and number of years is say 3 years. Okay, now this principal amount, it will also be called as present value. Why the principal amount is also called as present value? Basically, principal amount is called present value because today you are taking that amount and trying to invest it in a bank, or maybe invest it somewhere where you are going to get a compound interest, or where you are going to get a simple interest. Okay, so today you are taking that amount and you are going to invest it in a bank, or you are going to invest it somewhere, right? So that amount, 1000 rupees, is what you currently have, and you want to know how much interest you will get on it if you deposit it in a bank for 3 years at an interest rate of 50%. Okay, so basically principal amount becomes your present value because you currently have that amount in your hand and you want to know how much interest I will get if I invest that amount. Clear? Okay. Now let us move ahead. Okay. Let us solve this basic problem. Principal amount is around 1000 multiplied by the interest rate. Interest rate is around 50%. Okay, multiplied by number of years, which is 3. So the total amount will come to around 1500. Okay, now this we found out using the simple interest formula. Now let us do it individually for a year. Okay, say the first year, you take your principal amount. Since in simple interest, we charge the interest rate directly on the principal amount in order to find out the simple interest. Let us do that same thing. Okay, we have taken the principal amount. Let us multiply it with the interest rate, which is 50%, which comes to around 500. Okay, now let us repeat the same thing for the second year as well. You take 1000 rupees, multiply it with the 50%, you will get 500. Okay. Now let us repeat the same thing for the third year as well, because you are going to invest for a period of 3 years. Because you are going to invest for a period of 3 years. Okay. So you take 1000 multiplied by 50% is equal to 500. Now if you do summation for the first year, second year and third year, whatever interest you are getting, you will get 1500, which is similar to what answer you got using the simple interest formula. Okay, basically the first year, second year and third year interest is going to remain same in case of simple interest because you are calculating your interest directly on the principal amount. You are not taking the interest which you have earned previously. You are just taking the principal amount, multiplying it with the interest rate. Taking the principal amount, multiplying it with the interest rate. So, for all the years, you are going to get the same interest. Clear? So, this is the formula where you can directly calculate it or if you all have lot of time, you all can do it individually for each year. Okay. So now this is with respect to simple interest. Now let us move on to compound interest. Let us take the same example. Okay, let us take the same example. Now, I told you compound interest theoretically what it is, right? Let us write that down. Okay, compound interest is equal to principal amount plus interest on previously. Okay, now let us calculate using the same problem. Let us calculate what is the compound interest in a simple manner first, trying to understand what it is, and then we'll go to the formula. Okay, so principal amount plus interest earned previously. Okay, so let us calculate it for the first year. First year, let us take the principal amount. Is there any interest earned previously in the first year? No. Since it is first year, there is no chance that you have earned the interest previously. Okay, so we'll take the interest earned previously as 0. Multiply it with the interest, which is 50%. The interest amount will come to rupees 500. Now, in the first year, the the simple interest and the compound interest amount will be same. Why? Because in the first year, you have not earned any interest. Okay. In the next 2 years, you will see the difference. Okay. In the second year, okay, principal amount plus the interest earned previously. Interest earned previously. Interest earned previously is what? 500. So let us take 500 here multiplied with the interest rate. Okay. So what it comes to over here? It comes to around 750 rupees. Okay. Then let us move on to the third year. Now the third year, it will be the principal amount plus interest earned previously. Now in the first year, how much interest you earned? 500. In the second year, how much interest you earned? 750. So both the years interest you will have to take into consideration. Multiply it with 50%. Okay. How much is it coming to? It comes to around 1125. Now the total compound interest for a period of 1, 2, 3 years is coming to around 2375. Okay, this is your compound interest. Now if you remember using simple interest for the same problem, we got simple interest as 1500, but over here we are getting the compound interest as 2375. So it is very obvious that the compound interest will be greater than that of the simple interest, because in compound interest we are taking the principal amount plus the interest earned previously, and then we are multiplying it with the interest rate. Clear? Now let us move on to understand the formulae of compound interest. Yes. Now, let us understand what is the future value of compound interest first, because based on that only the formula of compound interest is devised. Okay, now the future value of compound interest is as follows. Future value of compound interest
is you take the present value. Now the present value I told you all before also is nothing but the principal amount. How your principal amount becomes the present value? Basically, principal amount is the amount which you currently have in your hand, and you are taking that amount and investing it in a bank. Okay, so basically, now if you don't have that principal amount in your hand, why will you want to know how much compound interest you are going to earn in 3 years? Isn't it? So principal amount is the amount which you have in your hand currently, and that amount you want to invest it in a bank, or you want to put it somewhere, you want to deposit it somewhere, and you want to know how much interest you will earn on depositing that amount for a said period of time for a certain percentage of interest. Okay, so that is the reason why your present value is principal amount. Clear? So we take the present value and we multiply it with the future value factor. Okay, if you remember, I have given you all those tables, right? In those tables, there is present value factor and there is future value factor. So this is your future value factor, in which you take your present value and multiply it with the future value factor in order to determine the future value of your compounding interest. Clear? So this is a future value factor. Now this you have to multiply it with your present value in order to find out what will be the future value of this present value. Clear? Now this is the future value factor. Don't get confused. This is a future value factor, and this factor will be compounded annually, semi-annually, weekly, monthly, daily. Okay. So this is your compounding interest future value. Okay, compounding interest future value, what we have done, I am repeating again. We have taken the present value, which is nothing but the principal amount, and multiplied it with the future value factor. If you will remember, I had explained here something called as present value factor. What was that present value factor? It was 1 divided by 1 plus r the whole raised to n. This was your present value factor, if you remember, right? Present value interest factor. This was your present value interest factor. Similarly, this is your future value interest factor, okay, which is reverse of this. So present value interest factor is 1 divided by 1 plus r the whole raised to n, and future value factor is 1 plus r the whole raised to n. Okay, and why we divide it with the interest, I have told you all that every amount, money basically has time value. Okay, and that time value of money is basically because of the interest. If there is no interest in the market, there is no time value. That is the reason why in order to find the present value interest factor or the future value interest factor, you need R, that is interest rate. Clear? Okay. So now let us move ahead with understanding the formulae of compound interest. Okay. Let us start with the compounding interest problems. In the file I have uploaded, there are 5 problems. I will be solving all those 5 problems today. So let us start with the first problem. Okay. Mr. X deposited rupees 1000 at the rate of 10% per annum, compounding annually, and he received rupees 1331 after certain period. They have asked us to compute the period. Now let us write down what particulars are given. They have said Mr. X deposited rupees 1000. So the principal amount or the present value is rupees 1000. Okay. Now the second, at the rate of what? At the rate of 10%. So the rate is 10% per annum. Okay, and compounding annually. So it is not semi-annual, it's not compounding weekly and all, it is a normal compounding annually problem. Okay, and he received 1331 after a certain period of time. So they have given us the future value as well. So the future value is 1331. They have asked us to find out n, right? They have asked us to find out n. So now I have explained you all the future value formulae, right? So let us write down that formulae. Future value is equal to present value multiplied by the future value interest factor, that is 1 plus r the whole raised to n. Now the future value, we know future value is 1331, that is 1331. The present value is given as 1000, so we know that the present value is also 1000. Then we have 1 plus r. What is the r over here? 10%. So it is 10%. The whole raised to n. Now n is the thing that we need to find out. N is nothing but the period of years. So we need to find out n. So now let us solve this problem further. Okay, 1331. Let us get this down over here. Okay, once you get this down over here, what remains? 1 plus 0.10 the whole raised to n. Now 1331 divided by 1000, how much is it coming to? It comes to around 1.331 is equal to, let us add this up, so it becomes 1.10 the whole raised to n. Now how many times if you multiply 1.10 will you get 1.331? That is what is the answer which we'll get of n, which is at a power. Okay. So how many times if you multiply it will you get 1.331? Do it and see. Multiply it once. What you are getting, you see. Multiply it thrice and see what you are getting. If you multiply it thrice, you will get this. It is 1.331. Okay. So this raised to the power of 3 will give you 1.331. Okay. This raised to the power of 3 will give you 1.331. Because when you multiply 1.10 3 times, you get 1.331. So based on this, we can say that our n is equal to 3. Okay. So this is how you need to solve the problems. Direct formula are not there. You need to understand that if all the information is given, only n they have asked us to find out, how we are going to go about with finding the final answer. Clear? Now this was the first problem. Now let us move on to the second problem. The second problem. Mr. X deposited rupees 1000 at the rate of R compounding annually and he is receiving after 3 years rupees 1404.928. Compute R per annum. Over here they have asked us to find out R. Yes. They have asked us to find out R over here. Okay. So let us write down the particulars that are given over here. Mr. X deposited 1000. So the present value or the principal amount is rupees 1000. Okay. At the rate of R, we are required to find out R. Okay. At the rate of R, compounding annually. So this is also compounding annually. We don't have to worry about semi-annual and all that, quarterly and all. It is a annual problem. So M is equal to 1. Okay, and he is receiving after, sorry, and he is receiving after 3 years. So n is given, which is 3 years. Okay, and after 3 years he is receiving an amount of 1404. So future value is also given, 1404.928. Okay, and they have asked you to compute R per annum. Okay, so in this problem we are required to find out R. So let us find out R. Now future value is given, present value is given. So the same formula we will use which we used for the previous problem. That is the future value of compounding interest amount. So future value is equal to present value multiplied by the future value interest factor. Present value, what is the present value? 1000 multiplied by 1 plus R. R we are required to find out. The whole raised to n, that is number of years, which is given as 3. Right? Future value is given. What is it given as? 104.4928. 928. It is given. So now we are required to find what is R, right? So let us solve this problem. Let us get 1000 under this. 1404.928 divided by 1000 equal to 1 plus R, the whole raised to 3. Okay. Solve this. What is it coming to? It comes to 1.404, okay, is equal to 1 plus R, the whole raised to 3. Okay, now this power which is there, okay, raised to 3, we can shift it this side and it will become cube root, isn't it? There is square root, there is cube root. So once this 3 shifts over here, this will become a cube root of 1.404 is equal to 1 plus R. Okay. Now cube root of 1.404 is what? 1.200 is equal to 1 plus R. Now we need to find out R. So let us shift this 1 this side. 1.200 minus 1 is equal to R. So this is going to come up to what? It is going to come up to this minus this. What is going to be? Okay, sorry, it is 1.12. It is 1.12. Okay, cube root of 1.404 is 1.1200. 1.1200. Okay, I'll write it again. Cube root of 1.404 is 1.1200, and over here it is 1.1200 minus 1. So R, it comes to 0.12, which is nothing but 12%. Okay, so this is how we are going to solve. Now this cube root and all, for the exam you can use the tables or you will have to calculate it manually. Okay, but most probably such complex problems won't come. The ones which you can use, ones which you can do using the normal calculator, those type of problems only will come. Okay, so this is how you go about with solving the problem. Now let us move on to the third problem. Let us move on to the third problem. Okay, so what is given over there? Let us see the particulars. Okay, Sania deposited 1 lakh in a nationalized bank for 3 years. So we have the principal amount or the present value, which is nothing but 1 lakh. Okay. For how many years? For 3 years she deposited the amount. Okay. And the rate of interest is 7%. So the rate of interest is 7%. Okay. Calculate the interest the bank has to pay to Sanya after 3 years if the interest is calculated annually. So they have asked us to calculate it annually, okay, semi-annually or half yearly, and they have asked us to calculate it for monthly as well. Okay, so over here we are supposed to find out the interest. Now let us use the formula and try to find out the interest. Okay, first one is annually. So what was the formula for compound interest amount for n years that I explained you all? It was present value 1 plus r the whole raised to n minus 1. Present value multiplied by 1 plus r the whole raised to n minus 1. Okay, so we are given present value over here. This is for the first one, that is annually. Okay, so we are given the present value over here. What is the present value? It is 1 lakh, right? What is the present value? It is 1 lakh, right? Is R given? Yes, R is given as 7%. So 7%. Okay. Raised to n, that is number of years, it is given to us as 3 minus 1. Okay. So now let us solve this problem. 1 lakh 1 plus 0.07, it will come to 1.07, the whole raised to 3 minus 1. So let us start with solving the bracket first. Okay, 1.07, 3 times, multiply 3 times, minus 1, how much you are getting? Solving this bracket, you will get an amount of around 0.22, 0.22504. Okay, start with solving the bracket first, then minus at 1, minus the answer with 1, you will get this answer over here. Multiply this with 1 lakh. Okay, so what is the total amount that you will get? You will get around 22504. Okay, you will get this. It is 22,504. Okay, so this is your interest amount compounded annually for a period of 3 years at the rate of 7%. This is your amount. Okay, so this is your compounding interest. Now let us do it for semi-annually as well. Okay, now the moment semi-annual comes into picture, okay, the moment of half yearly comes into picture, we know that m is equal to 2, right? M is equal to 2. Now let us take the formula. Compounding interest amount for n years is equal to present value 1 plus r divided by m whole raised to mn minus 1. Now, for anything which is compounded for yearly, anything which is compounded other than annually, we have to use this formula. So, if any investment is compounded other than annually, if it is annually, we know that m is equal to 1. If it is not annually, then we are going to use this formula, because if it is not annually, then M has a value. For semi-annual it is 2, for monthly it is 12, for quarterly it is 4, for daily it is 365, for weekly it is 52. So for anything which is compounded other than annually has a value for M. Compounded annually, the value of M is equal to 1. But if compounding is done other than annually, M has a value, and that is the reason why we have to include M in the problem. Okay. Now the rate of interest is divided by M and number of years is multiplied by M. Why are we doing that? Because M tells you basically number of times you are going to pay the interest in a year. So if your period, okay, for which you have deposited the amount is 3 years, but you are getting the interest semi-annually, means twice in a year you are getting the interest. Okay, after 6 months you are getting interest, and again after 6 months again you are getting interest. Correct? So that is the reason why it becomes very essential to multiply it with the number of years. Though though you have deposited the amount for 3 years, but you are getting the interest amount twice in a year. So this 3 years needs to be multiplied with the 2 in case of semi-annually. Now say if you have deposited the amount for 3 years, but you are getting the interest every month, that is monthly. That time you will have to multiply this 3 years with 12, because in case of compounding monthly, M value is 12, because there are 12 months in a year. Okay, I hope that is clear. So now let us solve this problem. Okay, present value is given to us as 1 lakh. Now we are taking R, which is 7%, 0.07, and dividing it with 2. Why are we dividing it with 2? Because compounding is done semi-annually, and if compounding is done semi-annually, the value of M is what? Number of times you are getting the interest in a year, or number of times you have to pay the interest in a year. That is M. Okay. So, in case of compounding semi-annually or half-yearly, the value of M is equal to 2. That is the reason why we divide the interest rate with 2. Okay. If you don't divide it with 2, what will happen over here is, even though you are paying the interest twice in a year, or if you are receiving the interest twice in a year, the interest rate will become double. Okay. You are paying 7% after 6 months, then again after 6 months you are paying 7% interest. So total in a year you are paying 14% interest. But is that true? No, you are paying just 7% interest. But the compounding is happening semi-annually. That is twice. You are paying the interest twice in a year. What interest rate are you paying at? You are paying at 7%. So that is the reason why we divide this 7% with 2. If we don't divide it with 2, you are paying the interest twice in a year. So in short, you are paying 14% interest. Okay. For example, if you have taken a loan and you have to pay the interest for a period of 3 years semi-annually. In short, you are paying interest twice in a year, 7% once and then again 7%. So basically you are paying 14%, which is double. So that is the reason why when it comes to semi-annually, since you are paying the interest twice in a year, you have taken the loan for only 3 years, for 3 years, that is the reason why you divide it with M, which is number of times you are paying the interest. So once you divided it with the number of times you are paying interest, everything gets adjusted. That is, R gets adjusted with the number of times you are paying the interest. Otherwise, if you don't divide it with 2, it becomes double. You are paying interest twice in a year. Since you are paying it semi-annually, you are paying it twice in a year. Right? So 7% after 6 months, 7% again after 6 months, it comes up to 14%. But are you paying 14% according to the agreement? No, you are paying only 7%. That is the reason why we take the 7% and we divide it with 2. Clear? Now, since we are dividing it with 2, this gets adjusted. This is sorted. Okay, this gets adjusted. But what about the number of years? Are you paying only 3 times the interest in 3 years? No. Since you are paying semi-annually the interest, in a year you are paying it twice, right? And not just 3 times. The interest you are not paying it just 3 times. You are paying it twice in a year. That is the reason why we take the number of years, and we multiply it with m. That is number of times we are paying the interest. In case of semi-annually, m value is 2. So that is the reason why we take 3 and we multiply it with 2. Clear? So that way we get the appropriate interest rate, and also the number of times we are paying the interest gets adjusted with the number of years. Clear why this is done basically? Okay, so let us solve this further. Okay, this 0.07 divided by 2, the whole raised to m multiplied by n. M is what? 2 multiplied by n. N is what? 3. N is number of years. N is number of years, and m is number of times you are paying interest in a year. Okay, so once you multiply it, minus 1. Okay, so now let us solve. 1 lakh 1 plus 0.07 divided by 2, what you are getting? 0.035. 0.035. 3 multiplied by 12, so it is 6. You all understood why you are taking here as 6? Because number of years is 3 and m is 2. M is 2 because it is compounded semi-annually. Okay, minus 1. Okay, now let us solve this bracket. Okay, so it is 1 plus 0.035, it is 1.035, the whole raised to 6 minus 1. Now after solving this bracket, what you are getting over here? After solving this bracket, what you are getting? The answer that you will get is 0.2292. 0.2292. Okay, so this is the answer that you will get. Solve this bracket first, minus the answer, whatever you get over here, minus it with 1, you will get this answer. Then 1 lakh multiplied with this, you will get 22,000. Okay, this is 22925, you will get 22,925. Okay, you will get 0.22925 over here. Solve this equation first, that is 1.035, multiply it 6 times, minus 1, you will get this answer. That is 1.035 multiplied by 1.035 multiplied by 1.035, like that you have to do 6 times, minus 1, you will get this answer. Multiply this answer with 1 lakh, you will get 22,925. Okay, so this is going to be your answer for compounding interest amount semi-annually. Okay, I hope it is clear now why we are dividing r by m and why we are multiplying the number of years with m. M is nothing but number of times you are going to pay the interest in a year. Okay, though you have taken the loan for 3 years, but if you are paying semi-annual interest, in that case you are paying the interest twice in a year. Okay, example, now let us move on to monthly. Okay, let us understand monthly. Okay, let us understand monthly. Okay, now in case of monthly, what has happened? You have taken a loan for a period of 3 years, but you are paying the interest monthly. Okay, since you are paying the interest monthly, M becomes 12. Since you are paying the interest monthly, M becomes 12. Okay, because in a year you are going to pay your interest 12 times since you are paying it monthly. Okay, though you have taken the loan for 3 years, but you are paying your interest monthly, that is every month you are going to pay, and in a year there are 12 months. That's the reason why M is equal to 12. M is nothing but number of times you are paying your interest in a year. I'll repeat, number of times you are paying the interest in a year is M, whereas N is number of years for which you have taken the loan. Number of years for which you have taken the loan is N. M is number of times you are paying the interest in a year. Okay. So now let us solve this. Present value is 1 lakh. 1 plus R, R is what? 0.07 divided with 12. Okay, divide it with 12 by 12 because M is equal to 12. Then M, which is 12, multiply it with N. N is what? 3 years minus 1. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Why we are dividing the interest rate with 12 now? Since you are going to pay your interest monthly, right? So every month you are going to pay your interest. So if you don't divide it with 12, you won't be paying just 7% interest. Your interest will be 7 multiplied by 12. Okay, it will be quite high percentage that you are paying. Since you are paying only 7% interest, this 7% interest should be divided by 12 because you are paying that 7% interest 12 times in a year. Clear? Then you have taken the loan for only 3 years, but since you are paying the interest monthly, so are you paying just 3 times the interest? No, you are paying it 12 times in a year. So that is the reason why 12 multiplied by 3. Why multiplied by 3? Because you have taken the loan for 3 years. And why multiply by 12? Because you are paying the interest 12 times in a year. Clear? Now let us solve this. Okay, 0.07 divided by 12, it comes to around 0.00583. Okay, it comes to 0.00583. Okay, the whole raised to 36 minus 1. Okay, once you solve this equation, the total amount that you all will get is around okay, that you all solve because it's quite huge. So what I'll do is I'll tell you all the final answer. The final answer will be around 23,292. Just solve this equation. You have to multiply 36 times this value. Okay, and then you will get around, after that multiply it with this, 23,292 is the final amount that you all will get. I hope now at least it is clear why we do this thing. Okay, I hope it is clear now at least. Okay, for the future problems, like when the power is quite high over here, I will be giving you all tables, that is future value tables. I will be giving you all can use those tables, but for now since we are learning the basics, let us do it manually. Okay, so that's it. Now let us move on to the next problem. So we finished the Sanya problem. Okay, that is the third problem. Now let us move on to the fourth problem. Okay, let us move on to the fourth problem. Okay, so determine the compounding interest and compound amount on rupees 1000 at 6% per annum for a period of 6 years if it is compounded semi-annually. Now, so we are given the details. Let us write down the details. Determine the compounding interest and the compounding interest amount. So we are required to find the compounding interest and the compounding interest amount. Okay, amount for n years. They have given us the principal amount, that is principal amount or the present value is 1000. Okay. Then they have given us the interest rate as well. The interest rate is 6%. Okay. And they have mentioned the period, that is n is equal to 6 years. Okay. And they have said compounded semi-annually. Compounded semi-annually. Okay, so m is equal to 2. Okay, so all these details are given and they have asked us to find a compounding interest rate, interest amount. So let us find out the compounding interest amount. Okay, compounding interest amount is equal to present value 1 plus r the whole raised to n minus 1. Okay. Now the present value, we know the present value is how much? It is 1000. The whole multiplied by 1 plus r. R is given to us as 6%, which is 0.06. Okay. Since now it is compounded semi-annually, we'll have to divide r by m and multiply n by m. Right? We'll have to multiply n by m. So let us divide this by n value. What is the value of n? It is 2 since it is compounded semi-annually. So let us divide it with 2. Okay. The whole raised to n multiplied by m. N is what? 6 years. M is what? 2 since it is compounded semi-annually minus 1. Okay. Now let us solve this problem. Okay. 1000 1 plus 0.06 divided by 2, how much it comes to? 0.03. 6 multiplied by 2, how much is it? 12 minus 1. Okay, so it is 1000. 1 plus 0.03 is how much? 1.03. The whole raised to 12 minus 1. Now let us solve this. Once you solve that, what do you get over here? You get a total amount of 0.42, 0.42, 0.42570. So multiply this with 0.425760. You get a total answer of 425.760. Okay, so the compounding interest amount is 4.25.760. Now this is your compound interest, but what will be the total amount? The total amount will be nothing but the principal amount plus the interest, isn't it? At the end of 3 years, sorry, at the end of 6 years, basically you are not just going to get the interest, you are also going to get the principal amount back, right? Isn't it? Or you are just going to get the interest? No, you are going to get the principal amount back as well. So the total compounding interest amount is 1000, that is the principal amount plus the interest. So the principal amount is how much? 1000 and the interest amount is what? 425. So 1425 will be the total amount that you will get after the end of 6 years. Okay, if you have deposited it for 6 years, you will get at the end 1425. If You have taken a loan, you have to pay 1425. Clear? So this is the compounding interest amount, and this is the total compounding interest amount, that is principal plus interest. That is the total amount which you will get or which you will have to pay. That is 1425. Whereas only the interest, if you want to know, it is 425. Clear? I hope this problem is very clear. Now let us move on to the last problem, that is the fifth problem. Okay, compute the compound interest on rupees 1000. So we know that the present value or the principal amount is 1000. For how many years? They have asked us to find it for 1.5 year. So it is 1.5 year. Okay, and the interest rate they have given it as 10%. So it is 10%, and it is compounded semi-annually. So the compounded semi-annually, this is the first aspect, and I will also solve quarterly because you all can understand it better. If it is quarterly, m is equal to 4. Okay, because there are 4 quarters in a year, m is equal to 4. So we'll solve both this and we will see what is the situation. I won't rub the formula because since it is compounded semi-annually and compounded quarterly, the same formula will be using. Okay, so let us solve the fifth problem. So these are the particulars which are given to us. Let us start with the first one, that is semi-annually or half yearly. Okay, so we take the principal amount. Principal amount is how much over here? 1000. We take the principal amount, multiply it with 1 plus r. What is r over here? 0.10, sorry, it is 10%, so it is 0.10. Okay, since it is compounded semi-annually, we will have to divide 0.10 with m, and the m for semi-annually is 2, so we divide it with 2, the whole raised to n multiplied by m. Now what is n over here? Number of years is 1.5. So it is 1.5 year multiplied by m, which is 2 minus 1. Okay. So now let us solve this. 1000. Now 0.10 divided by 2 is how much? 0.05. 1.5 multiplied by 2 is how much? 3 minus 1. Clear? So 0.10 divided by 2 is 0.05. The whole raised to 1.5 multiplied by 2, which is nothing but 3. Now you have to solve this equation. Once you solve that equation, that is 1 plus 0.05 is 1.05, the whole raised to 3 minus 1. Once you solve this equation, what amount do you get? You get 0.1576. So you get 0.1576, multiply it with the principal amount, which is 1000, you will get 157.6. So this is your compounding interest amount. Okay. So now this is semi-annually. You all understood why we are dividing it with 2. Since semi-annually m is equal to 2, the number of times you are paying interest in a year is 2 times. That is the reason why we divided with 2. Then again, though you have maybe deposited it only for 1.5 year, but how many times are they paying you the interest? They are paying you the interest semi-annually. That is the reason why we have to multiply the number of years with m, that is 2 in case of semi-annually. Okay. So now let us move on to quarterly. Okay, quarterly. Now since it is quarterly, m is equal to 4. Okay, let us solve the problem for quarterly where m is equal to 4. Okay, so now we will take the principal amount. Principal amount is 1000. So we take 1000 multiplied by 1 plus r. R is what? 0.10, 10%. Now this will be divided by 4 because the number of times you are going to get the interest is quarterly, and quarterly there are 4 quarters in a year. That's the reason why we are dividing it with 4. The whole raised to number of years. Number of years is how much? 1.5 year multiplied by m. M is number of times you are going to get the interest in a year, which is 4, since it is compounded quarterly, minus 1. Okay, so let us solve this. Okay, this comes to, that is 10% divided by 4, it comes to around 0.025. 10% divided by 4, it comes to 0.025. Now 1.5 multiplied by 4, it comes to around 6 minus 1. Okay, so 1000, 1 plus 0.025, it comes to 1.025, the whole raised to 6 minus 1. Now you need to solve this equation. Solve this and you will get the answer as 1000. You will get the answer over here as 1.159 minus 1. So once you minus this, you will get 1000 multiplied by 0.159, which is nothing but 159. Okay, so this is going to be your compounding interest amount if you are compounding it quarterly. Clear? I hope this is very much clear now with respect to compounding interest problems. I have solved all the 5 problems which I had uploaded. Now you all have the solution as well. You all can check out, and if any doubts you all have, you can upload it on the Google Classroom, or you all can DM me on WhatsApp. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.